Well, tonight it's a barrage of court judgments in the People's Democratic Party as the latest from a Calabar court restrains Mr. Uche Secondus from functioning as a national chairman of the party. 28 inmates from the Kano Correctional Center to begin a new life as the governor of the state grants them amnesty under prerogative of mercy. On our special report tonight, we will be focusing on millions of out-of-school children, particularly in the northeastern part of the country. And Kabul evacuations enter final phase as United States warns of threats of more attacks.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's forex reserves declined further in spite of $3.35 billion special drawing rights allocation from the IMF.
And on sports news tonight, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola rules out signing a striker before next week's transfer deadline after the Premier League champions condemned Arsenal to their worst start to a league season since 1954.
Well, the last may not have been heard of the leadership crisis rocking the People's Democratic Party (PDP) as another court order has restrained the chairman of the party, Prince Uche Secondus. Well, the latest court order from Calabar, Cross River State, restrains him from parading himself as the party's national chairman the second time in a week. Mr. Secondus had earlier returned to his position as the national chairman of the party on Friday after Kebbi Court reinstated him as the chairman.
Leaders of the People's Democratic Party, including the former Vice President, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, and some serving governors and members of the PDP National Assembly Caucus, are attending this meeting in Abuja.
Man and woman.
It's the 92nd National Executive Committee meeting of the PDP, and Elder Yemi Akinwumi is presiding as a court order in Cross River State bars Mr. Uche Secondus from serving as the party's national chairman. Although the meeting is convened to discuss the party's planned convention in October, it also provided an opportunity for participants to speak on some national issues.
Insecurity has so worsened that even military installations are not immune. We have never had it so bad as this. We must resist every attempt to show disunity in our ranks, but to work together to salvage the country.
Some participants also speak on the party's internal crisis and its implications.
And Nigerians are looking forward to PDP, and we cannot afford to fail them. We are going into a warfare, and military strategists like Apakobondo will tell you that you must go to a warfare united.
The PDP has recently been struggling to settle internal leadership crisis, which has resulted in at least 3 court orders, with 2 restraining Mr. Secondus from serving as the PDP national chairman. Notwithstanding, the PDP believes in its internal crisis resolution mechanism.
PDP's internal crisis management is far more efficient and far more better than APC and even the APC government itself.
The meeting then proceeds into closed doors, and at the end, the National Publicity Secretary briefs journalists about resolutions concerning the October convention.
NEC has resolved that Abuja will be the venue of the PDP National Elective Convention slated for October 31, 2021.
The PDP has been enmeshed in a leadership struggle over the last 4 months, resulting in several court orders as some within the party call for the sack of the national chairman, Mr. Uche Secondus, barely 4 months to the end of his tenure in December.
In the meantime, a statement from the media office of Prince Uche Secondus insists that the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party has not stepped down and remains in office in that capacity. The statement signed by his special advisor, Mr. Ike Abonyi, explains that Mr. Secondus was unavoidably absent at the party's National Executive Committee meeting because he was obeying an interim order from the Cross River State High Court. According to him, Prince Secondus's 4-year mandate to lead the party, given on December 2017, ends December 2021. We're staying with party politics. Former national chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, is back in the news after months of silence. Well, this time he is insisting that he is not ready to return to office. Speaking to journalists at an event in Abuja, Comrade Oshiomhole says he has decided to sleep on his right as far as the national chairmanship of the APC is concerned. While explaining that he remains an active member of the party, Comrade Oshiomhole is optimistic about the survival of Nigeria's democracy after the 2023 general elections.
I have chosen, for the purpose of chairmanship, to sleep on my right, and it will remain sleeping, and happily so. And as you can see, even since I left office, I'm still active in all activities of the party, because I don't think I need to be a chairman to be of any relevance. I didn't join the party to become chairman. I joined the party because I wanted to form an alternate platform that was capable of taking PDP out of power, and that objective was achieved. As for 2023, you know, people like to talk about their fears, but me, my life is about my hopes and my hopes. I think by 2023, God will not forsake a nation of 200 million people. Our democracy has come to stay. It's not perfect. A couple of things could be done better to strengthen it, but we will move on. We will get on with the job, and I believe that Nigeria, God in His infinite powers, we help Nigerians to sustain our democracy and to guide us as we move towards 2023, and the country will go on. But I ask all of you to realize that I always make this point, with all the problems that Nigeria have, and there are quite a number, the sum Nigeria is still much more than the sum total of all of those problems. So I am an optimist.
But to security, members of the Christian Association of Nigeria have expressed concerns over the rising cases of insecurity across the country. Speaking at a news conference to mark the 45th anniversary of the association in Abuja, the Assistant General Secretary of the association, Biodun Sanyaolu, calls for concerted efforts by the government to address the challenge as a lingering insecurity has affected the livelihoods of Nigerians.
The security architecture of the country has been compromised. We can all see it. Terrorists are operating with impunity wherever and whenever they wanted. Our security agencies are giving us the impression that these terrorists, those operating in the northwest, are named bandits by their friends and sympathizers. It is needless to remind you of how they invaded some tertiary institutions in the north, abducting and killing as if our security agencies were on holiday. Hundreds of innocent children are being threatened with guns by criminals, including 63 students of the Bethel Baptist High School in Kano State. We wonder how some religious leaders are able to locate the location of the terrorists inside the bush, and yet our security agencies cannot locate them.
Meanwhile, reactions continue to trail the release of the 91 students of Saliu Tanko Islamia School in Tegina, Niger State. And the latest is from the United Nations Children's Fund, which describes as a relief the freedom of 91 students of a school who were abducted 3 months ago by suspected terrorists. The body in a statement adds, children who went in search of knowledge were abducted at their school, which is supposed to be a safe place for them while exercising their fundamental right to an education. It adds that it is a tragedy and utterly unacceptable that one of these children died in captivity. The World Body also explains that it will work with partners to provide mental health, psychosocial support and counseling services to both the freed learners and their parents. And in Plateau State, the House of Assembly is concerned about the rising spate of killings in the state, which appears to be getting out of hand if not taken care of as a matter of urgency. In its resolution taken after the plenary session on the security situation, the Speaker of the Assembly, Right Honorable Ayuba Abok, states that the House has directed the Governor to pay visits to all attacked communities, as well as settle the medical bills of victims receiving treatment at various health facilities, with government providing adequate compensation to all attacked communities where houses were destroyed.
Members of the Plateau State House of Assembly in a plenary session on matter of public importance discussed the spate of insecurity, especially the recent killings of over 30 residents of Yelwa Zangam in Jos North local government area.
I am standing again to speak out on the killings that are happening in Plateau State. If you could remember, Mr. Speaker, last 2 weeks or so, I submitted an interim report based on the assignment given to us by this Honorable House to go to affected areas in Yongo and Rio to ascertain to ascertain the extent of damages made on the farmer's farm.
Members in their various submissions unanimously admit that the killings across the state are worrisome and that the situation calls for serious attention from government and security agencies. After the deliberations, the Speaker reads the resolution passed by the House.
In conformity and in support of all the submissions that we made here, the prayers is going to be order in nature. That the government must, when must is an order, just like we rightly said here, we discuss here. The government must visit all the attacked villages in Plateau State: Mongu, Bokos, Rion, Barikilagi, Bassa, Jos North local government. The government must also come to the hospital, just like he did right now. Must visit all the victims of the attacks, those that are lying in the hospital. The government must visit those people and settle their bills. The government must come out and speak to this recent killing. The government must come out and speak, and of course visit the president in respect of the recent attacks in Plateau State.
The lawmakers then mandate the Governor as the Chief Security Officer to act on the resolutions reached by the House within 2 weeks.
In part 2, after the break, we'll bring you a report on out-of-school children in the Northeast. Stay with us. You're welcome back. Now, available data indicates that in Nigeria alone, about 12 million children are out of school. Well, the situation is not only worrisome, but a big threat to the productive population of the nation's economy. In our next report, we take a look at the challenge of out-of-school children and what the Northeast is doing to reverse the dangerous trend.
It's school hours and these children roam the streets of Maiduguri, hawking wares or begging for alms on the street. They are of school age, albeit not in school. They're better known as out-of-school children. They're part of the national statistics that places the number of out-of-school children in Nigeria at 12 million. According to UNICEF, 2.8 million children need education in emergency support in 3 conflict-affected states: Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa. In these states, at least 802 schools remain closed. The Borno state government is worried about this situation, and the government is providing a specialized curriculum for Almajiri kids to acquire basic education in Quranic studies.
We map specifically 883 Sangha centers. These Sangha centers, we posted facilitators for them. Usually Thursdays and Fridays are pre-Quranic education days. We are utilizing these 2 days to give them rudimentary knowledge of numeracy and literacy.
With education partners working in the state, out-of-school children can now attend accelerated learning classes in informal schools. The vulnerable children rely on government school spaces where classes can only begin after noon when normal classes end for the day. Community-based mobilizers are responsible for identifying and enrolling vulnerable children in the program.
It's the responsibility of the CCs to go around the host community and then find out the out-of-school children and the IDPs living in the host community.
Their age range is between 6 to 15 years and they demonstrate a hunger for education by daily showing up here for classes. So far, no fewer than 200,000 children have benefited, and the long-term goal is to get them enrolled in mainstream schools.
Attendance is actually a challenge, though from our project we've supported them with scholastic materials to also help ease the burden on their parents, and then some of them have been supported with life skill startup kits to also encourage them so that they would have time for education.
Learning is under a specialized accelerated learning curriculum. Conflict-affected children in IDP camps are also demonstrating similar enthusiasm towards learning. The sustenance of this program, many believe, will prompt a decline in the number of out-of-school children in the state.
To further explore this lingering challenge of out-of-school children, with a view to proffering solutions, we're joined on the news at 10 by Professor Dujay Kadiri, Professor of Education Planning and Administration at the University of Maiduguri. He joins us live from our Borno studio. Thank you for joining us on the news at 10. Now, we have lamented this for years now, and you wonder if it's getting any better, especially with the UNICEF survey, which reports that Nigeria ranks top among countries with out-of-school children. The question is, how did we get to this point?
Well, that is the true situation of what is happening in Nigeria. Is a quarter of the out-of-school children globally is in Nigeria. Then 1 out of every 5 out-of-school children is in Nigeria. Most of of our age, those that are supposed to be in schools, are out of school. So that is true, and the number given is the actual survey given by the UNICEF. So, but actually, the Borno State government in particular and the federal government are doing a lot of alternative learning, such as homeschooling, such as e-learning and so on and so forth, to reduce the number of out-of-school children in the society.
Right. I mean, I think this speaks to the kind of premium we place on education, as it were. I mean, if we got into this point, and it seems like we're going around a cycle. But barely weeks ago, there was good news. The president promised to increase the budget for education by 50%. And I imagine that this is one of the solutions to this challenge. What for you would you say are some other commitments, or more importantly, actions which should be taken to ensure that we stem this tide?
Yes, the increase in budgetary allocation is only one of the many solutions to the problem of out-of-school children. Other programs, for example, the issue of school lunch program need to be intensified. There is also important things such as the parents need to be educated as to the importance of their education, of their children's education, that poverty is one factor that actually affects this issue. So the vulnerables and the parents need to be at least motivated so that they can be able to send their children to school. Other things is the environment. We talk about the security now. The security needs to be improved. If you look at the statistics given by the UNICEF, the highest number of the out-of-school children are in the three areas, in the three states, Borno, Bauchi, and Yobe. And these are the places that where security has damaged many schools and has sent many children back from schools to home. So insecurity has to be improved. Another program such as poverty has to be addressed, and so on and so forth. By so doing, the children can now go back to their schools.
We've had the Safe School Initiative, and which came as a result of the kidnappings we saw in past years in schools. And I mean, you can't rule out the effect of terrorism, kidnapping, and other forms of insecurity on education. Schools, as we speak, are closed in areas where kidnapping is rife. So how can our schools be safer? We have these policies. So what's the way forward from there?
Yeah, as I have said earlier, our school environment has to be secured. We need to have a proper security as far as our schools are concerned. Then the parents have to have that courage that if they send their children to school, they are safe. In that case, then the issue of enrollment can be increased. Then another thing is that the pupils that are sent to school have to have that courage that they are secured and the learning environment is attractive to them. In that case, our enrollment in various levels of learning can increase. Unless these things are addressed, the issue of street begging or street hawking and what have you will still remain there.
So one more thing, listening to one of the children saying he helps his father with his business in the morning and goes to school afterwards in that report. And I mean, a lot of people have asked time and again that how effective are school curricula in equipping students with the right skills for life, beyond just going to school to learn. How effective are those, the items on our curricula to ensure that when students leave school, they can apply what they have learned to real life?
You see, this is one factor that most of our children are running away from schools. We see the issue, the policy that we defend on paper qualification is over. There is a need now for our schools to have a new model to our schools where entrepreneurship will transfer, where students can be trained in different skills. At the end of their training, at the end of their schooling, they should be able to do something themselves, not necessarily wait for the government to give them employment or otherwise. Then another thing that advice I will give is that most of the children that you see them roaming about, the problem is from the parents. Most of them, they have to go and hawk. Most of them, they have to go and farm. So in that case, the Borno state government now is introduce certain things, some allowances to the parents, so that they can now allow their children to go to school. In that case, the enrollment has increased, especially in some of these areas that we were having low enrollment. Nowadays, the enrollment has changed, has drastically improved. These are some of the ways that we can improve student enrollment in our schools.
Well, Professor Duje Kadiri of the University of Maiduguri in Borno State, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the News at 10.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
There seems to be new opportunities for 28 inmates, well, former inmates, you might call them, in Kano State as they are now set free by the Kano State Governor, Umar Ganduje. Well, their freedom follows President Muhammadu Buhari's order to all governors to decongest correctional centers across the country. The governor freed the inmates during the visit of the Presidential Committee led by Justice Ishaq Bello.
Kano State was created in 1967 from the old northern region and has a population of over 10 million people. Sadly, the relatively high crime wave has been of great concern to authorities, and this explains the number of awaiting trial and convicted inmates in the correctional center in the state, resulting in congestion of the prisons. From 2015 to date, about 3,717 inmates have been freed by Governor Ganduje under the principle of prerogative of mercy. Currently, another 28 inmates have been freed by the governor, and the visiting Presidential Committee on the Decongestion of Prisons is satisfied with the steps taken so far. But the team is also worried about the handling of cases of some juveniles in detention, as they ask the governor to look into that area.
Most of them, once remanded, they are there, no trial whatsoever, and they tend to decay. And since they are not yet convict, hardly are they exposed to any skill acquisition. This is quite devastating, and this is in all states of the Federation.
For the governor, more steps will be taken to address the situation of prison decongestion, but first on his list is the rehabilitation of the freed inmates.
We even offer employment to some of them who gain their freedom, and some of them you can see talents in them. You can see really talents in them. So if we have all the stakeholders together and there is data, then this one is on trial for so long. What is happening? The man from the judiciary is there, the man from the commissioner of police is there. So you can find answers.
The strategy of prerogative of mercy, under which inmates are released twice in a year during Salah festivities, is in line with the President's call for decongestion of prisons in Kano.
The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabor, has been rubbing minds with former top military officers in the South-South region who have retired to their home states. Now, according to him, their past experiences will help end the current insecurity ravaging the country. Or some of the ex-servicemen who are now engaged in active politics, traditional leadership, farming, and other activities agree that the country needs their contribution.
What you also need to understand, and I'm talking about members of the media, is to have, a thorough grasp as to what each of these stakeholders need to contribute to the peace effort. The military is only a fraction of those who are to provide a holistic solution to it. We provide the ambience for these other stakeholders to begin to play their critical part, and I think that is what we're doing. We're also, sensitizing those who believe that need to play major role in this effort, and this is part of the reason why this engagement is on. There are other engagements we are, holding behind the scenes, which you may not see, but this is because we have assessed that. Kinetic effort is only a part of the solution. There are non-kinetic approach, there are kinetic aspect of this engagement that will be that is focal to the solution, the holistic solution that is with respect to challenges within the Niger Delta.
When the news at 10 returns, Nigeria's forex reserves dip further to $33.48 billion. That's in business news. Join us again. Kaduna State has come up with a novel and creative idea to distribute its delivery of medical supplies across the state. Well, the state government says it will be using drones to deploy COVID-19 vaccines and other medical supplies beginning from November. This, according to Commissioner for Health, Dr. Amina Baloni, is part of efforts by the state government to strengthen COVID-19 testing and vaccination, as well as improve healthcare service delivery in the state. Many states across Nigeria with limited cold chain storage facilities and poor road networks, as well as insecurity, are grappling with how to deliver COVID-19 vaccines that require ultra-low temperature storage and other medical consumables to primary health care centers and hospitals, especially during emergencies.
Medical supplies,
But the Kaduna State government is taking a bold step to tackle the problem by partnering with a medical drone service delivery firm in Ghana for the distribution of vaccines and other medical consumables in the state. With operations scheduled to begin in November 2021 across the 23 local government areas of the state, Zipline International and the Kaduna State Health Authorities have commenced the training of health officials in Nigeria and Ghana on the use of drone technology for quick delivery of vaccines and medical consumables in quick time.
Some of the benefits that we are hoping that this will bring to the health system in Kaduna is, one, just-in-time emergency deliveries at the doorsteps of health facilities. So for very critical life-saving medications like anti-snake medications, anti-rabies, and other life-threatening conditions like where blood and other things may be needed to save somebody's life critically. We are hoping that the Zipline is going to be able to be a key partner in that by using the drones to deliver just in time.
It would be really important for Nigeria to position itself to also enjoy all of these benefits that Zipline is bringing in terms of the medical services and medical delivery.
For the Kaduna State Commissioner for Health, this innovation will be a game changer as more people in need of Medicare will be reached, and in quick time too.
As you know, we have very many areas in Kaduna that are hard to reach or difficult to reach in the rural areas, and those populations also need health care. Particularly around maternal and child care. So you may find a woman in labor that is bleeding, that needs blood. You find children that need immunization. And so when we signed the MOU, our thoughts were around how do we get emergency drugs, commodities, blood products to remote areas where they're needed. This will cut down the delay in providing services and sometimes the complications that occur. So that's the concept behind using the drone technology.
The COVID-19 pandemic has had an adverse effect on the nation's healthcare system, and even though significant impact has been made in the distribution of vaccines to rural communities, it is however hoped that when the medical drone technology comes into the mix of things, the bottlenecks associated with delivering medical supplies will be a thing of the past. And on a sad note, Nigerian recording and performing high-life music legend Victor Owaifo has passed on. The multi-instrumentalist, known for his exceptional dexterity on the guitar, birthing him the alias Guitar Boy, which is also the title of one of his popular projects, died at the age of 80 after a brief illness. According to his nephew, Peter Owaifo, also known as Peter the Rock, was also a recording artist himself. Owaifo died in his home state, Benin Edo State, South Nigeria. Peter the Rock revealed exclusively to Channels Television that he just finished composing and recording a new track a few days ago titled Hallelujah with Owaifo, who was his adopted father. Well, legendary singer's single Guitar Boy has been referenced by raving acts including Simi and J1. Owaifo was the first professional musician to be awarded the National Merit Honors of a member of the Order of the Niger. Meanwhile, economists have been reacting to the news of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, posting profit for the first time in its 44 years of existence and given consideration to an initial public offer. But one of them, the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives, says a clause in the Petroleum Industry Act, which was signed about a week ago, enables the NNPC to offer shares to the public as part of its steps towards commercialization. Our business correspondent in Ijon Mekwa explores the potentials inherent in the public offer of the NNPC.
In December 2019, Saudi Aramco, Saudi Arabian Public Petroleum and Natural Gas Company, went public, raising a then record $25.6 billion in its initial public offer, that's an IPO, by selling 3 billion shares at 32 rands, which is $8.53. A few months later, in January 2020, it offered an additional 450 million shares. The total value of assets of Saudi Aramco in 2020 was approximately $510.5 billion, and it was ranked the most profitable company worldwide according to its credit rating.
Aramco has become a very, very successful company. It's well diversified.
In Nigeria, its contemporary, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, the NNPC, based on its financial statements, is worth about 13 trillion naira. If the consideration of an initial public offer is followed through, it means that the stock market capitalization, which is currently worth 20 trillion naira, would record a huge financial gain for the economy.
The market capitalization of the Nigerian stock market will actually increase by over 100%. And that is good for Nigeria as a destination of capital for investors. Secondly, and most importantly, is the fact that Nigerian individual shareholders, moms and pops, widows and orphans, right, big and small men, will have access to sharing in the goods that lays the golden eggs.
The shareholders by that time would have reasons to ask questions, hard questions, and their share price would pretty much depend on the investors' confidence. And I believe that overall it will improve efficiency of how NNPC is run.
The declaration of profits and consideration of an initial public offer have been noted as steps towards the implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act, as well as building a more cost-effective NNPC and oil industry for the overall good of Nigeria. Ini John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
And indigents of some oil-producing communities in Oguta local government area of Imo State have shut down the operations of Sterling Global Oil Resources in the local government till further notice. During a protest staged by indigents of the oil-producing communities at the entrance of the oil company in the local government area, the indigents accused the oil company, which was established in the area in 2006, of meeting untold hardship on them. But a representative of the oil company who addressed the protesters appeals to them to be patient, as the issues they have raised will be addressed in no distant time.
Oil company operates in our host communities, Mbala, Umwefeke and Omombo. There is no GMOU, no employment, with no capital and minor projects. Deny us the local content jobs, taking away our oil without any benefit.
I want to appeal that you still be patient with the company. The company is not taking the communities for granted. The company is doing its best to ensure that the issue of GMOU is concluded as soon as possible. You will agree with me, just last week or thereabout, we sat on this issue. And some of you who were there know what we discussed in the last meeting.
Now, following the unfortunate fire incident in Igwetiti local government area of Enugu State caused by adulterated kerosene sold to the victims in the area, the Enugu State Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi has directed the Department of Petroleum Resources and all other relevant government agencies to undertake a thorough investigation into the incident and determine those responsible for bringing the harmful product to the state. The governor's directive to this effect is contained in a statement by the Commissioner for Information, where he also commiserated with the families that lost their loved ones to the inferno. Governor Ugwuanyi also directed the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Emmanuel Ikechukwu Obias, as well as the Ministry's Permanent Secretary, to ensure that all those who suffered bodily injuries are effectively provided with the best available medical care at the expense of the state government. Well, Makoko residents have been reminded of the need to imbibe the culture of cleaning their environment in order to track what eventually gets to the ocean. Well, this was part of the activities of a group of environmentalists who visited the Lagos suburb to teach residents how to effectively gather, upcycle, and earn from their waste. Our correspondent, Chris Elems, reports.
Makoko is a suburb of Lagos, built partly on land and stilt. With a waterfront largely occupied by the Eguns, who are mainly fishermen. Population here is not certain, but it's obviously growing by the day. So also is the waste generated, most of which are non-degradable. This is a major concern for these environmentalists, considering that Makoko is within an estuary, that is, an intermediary between the land and the sea. So whatever happens here determines to a large extent the life and livelihood of the ocean, which has been seriously impacted by man.
If people at this level can manage and control their waste, it will reduce the impact or the quantity of the waste that goes to the sea. That's why we're here.
The day's activities essentially is to first clean, separate, and weigh the waste, most of which are plastics, which yearly leads to the ingestion, suffocation, and entanglement of hundreds of marine species. In order to help them learn how to put these wastes into effective use, some of the community members are taught the art of upcycling. This is the process of reusing discarded objects or material in such a way as to create a product of higher quality or value than the original. And these PET bottles are the materials for the day's lesson.
They were shown how to make a stool for the house, some artifacts. These are things you can generate income from.
The enthusiastic learners and the instructor appear to be satisfied with the class.
In fact, they want to learn more. They want to do it themselves. They were already asking of where they can get this, where they can get that, what else they can use, how else they can reuse their plastic. So yes, it was a success because at the end of the day, we're able to impact people. We're able to let people know that, oh, keep your environment clean, and then while you're doing that, you can also make some money. You can also reuse your waste.
I can teach many people now, even though my own sons and daughters, they will know about it.
It's estimated that at least 8 million tons of plastic end up in the oceans every year, which make up 80% of all marine debris, from surface waters to deep sea sediments. A reason environmentalists encourage programs to educate the public. Chris Elems, Channels Television News.
Well, let's now join Teniola Shubawali for the latest business stories.
Thanks a lot, Kayode. Welcome to Business News. Nigeria's foreign exchange reserve has sustained its decline for the second consecutive week. The country's gross reserves position dipped further by $15.44 million week on week to $33.48 billion as at August the 25th. Prior to this, the country's reserves had recorded 5 consecutive weeks of positive growth following inflow of foreign currency from crude oil sales and the expectation of the IMF's special drawing rights allocation of $3.35 billion. Meanwhile, the total turnover of transactions carried out at the FX spot, forwards and futures markets for the week ended August the 27th rose strongly by 76.08% to $949.91 million. Data from the FMDQ exchange shows that total value of Forex traded at the investors and exporters window of the Forex market was also rose by 59.37% to $661.48 million week to date. On the other hand, the weekly average rate for the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange dipped slightly by 0.01% to 411 naira 28 kobo against the dollar, compared to 411 naira 22 kobo recorded in the previous week. Over to the local equities, where the bull had a slightly weak grip on the market as investors gained only 1 billion naira in the week amid mixed trading sessions. The market's benchmark performance indicator was slightly high by 0.01% when compared to the preceding trading week. Activity levels were mixed as trading volumes rose by 16.7%, while value traded declined by 33.5% week on week. Bargain hunting activities were observed in stocks of First Bank, Access, Zenith Bank and MTN Nigeria. However, UPDC PLC topped the gainers chart, while Associated Boss Company led the losers. And that's it on Business News. It's back to Kaide for the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks a lot, Tenny. Well, sports news is next with Kayode Alayande.
Good evening and welcome to Sports News. The Confederation of African Football, CAF, has approved for the Nigeria Football Federation to have only 5,000 fans at next week's FIFA World Cup qualifying match between Nigeria and Liberia at the Taslim Balogun Stadium here in Lagos. The NFF had written to CAF to have at least 12,000 fans for the game. CAF reiterated that all COVID-19 protocols must be strictly adhered to. Now in the English Premier League, champions Manchester City have inflicted more misery on Arsenal with a resounding 5-0 win at the Etihad Stadium. Mohamed Salah was on the target as Liverpool came from behind to rescue a 1-1 draw with 10-man Chelsea in an early season heavyweight tussle at Anfield. Conor Gallagher scored as Crystal Palace ended West Ham United's winning starts to the season. Mark Albrighton's winner helped Leicester City to a victory over Norwich City. Everton extended their unbeaten start to the season as they produced a classy display to beat Brighton and Hove Albion. James Ward-Prowse scored a dramatic late penalty as Southampton earned a point in a thrilling encounter at Newcastle United. Meanwhile, manager Pep Guardiola has ruled out signing a striker before next week's transfer deadline after Manchester City condemned Arsenal to their worst start to a league season since 1954. Manchester City's week had been dominated by transfer speculations as Harry Kane confirmed he will be remaining at Tottenham Hotspurs this season, with the North London club unwilling to sell the England captain. But Guardiola was full of praises for Spanish forward Ferran Torres, who scored twice in the demolition of the Gunners.
You will see. During the season we were not able to score a goal, win games. How many people is going to say that we need a striker? That's why in our transfer market we didn't buy a striker. We tried, but sometimes not possible, and the team is fantastic squad. Buying him with incredible nice price because he's a top player, can play in the three positions up front. He's an incredible good finisher. You remember the game against Norwich that it was disallowed after the goal, but the finishing was perfect. So yeah, we're incredibly pleased for his movements, for his work ethic, for learn, for many things.
We saw beautiful goals coming today, and that will be all on Sports News tonight. Back to Kaide.
Thank you, Kaede. Well, U.S. President Joe Biden is warning that another attack on Kabul airport is highly likely, saying that military commanders have told him it could come as early as tomorrow. About 170 people died after a suicide bomber targeted the airport on Thursday as crowds of Afghans were trying to get on evacuation flights. The U.S. says it is continuing its evacuation at a very fast pace ahead of the August 31st deadline agreed with the Taliban.
Of a 20-year military involvement in Afghanistan, the United States says it has killed 2 Islamic State militants planning attacks in the country following a deadly attack outside Kabul airport on Thursday. American officials also warn of a high risk of further attacks by the terror group as it winds up its mission.
They have 2 high-profile planners, or one planner, one facilitator, that are no longer on their muster roll. So they have lost some capability to plan and to conduct missions. But Barbara, make no mistake, nobody's writing this off and saying, well, we got them, so we don't have to worry about ISIS-K anymore. Not the case. As I said earlier, the threat stream is still active, still dynamic.
U.S. troops have started their withdrawal from Kabul airport. Their numbers are now down to 4,000 from a peak of 5,800 in the past week. Meanwhile, the last British flight evacuating civilians from Afghanistan has left Kabul, bringing to an end the country's operation.
The team here have been working until the very last moment to evacuate British nationals, Afghans and others at risk. Since the 13th of August, we brought nearly 15,000 people to safety. And about 1,000 military, diplomatic, civilian personnel have worked on Operation Pitting in Kabul, many more elsewhere. Thursday's terrorist attack was a reminder of the difficult and dangerous conditions in which Operation Pitting has been done. It's time to close this phase of the operation now. But we haven't forgotten the people who still need to leave. We'll continue to do everything we can to help them. Nor have we forgotten the brave, decent people of Afghanistan. They deserve to live in peace and security.
Since the Taliban takeover 2 weeks ago, more than 117,000 people are believed to have been evacuated, with the deadline set by the U.S. for its forces to leave Afghanistan expiring on Tuesday, August the 31st. With the possibility of leaving by air now dwindling, many Afghans are reportedly now trying to escape the country via the land border with Pakistan.
And the main news again, it's a barrage of court judgments in the People's Democratic Party as the latest from a Calabar court restrains Mr. Uche Secondus from functioning as a national chairman of the party. 28 inmates from the Kano Correctional Center to begin a new life as the governor of the state grants them amnesty on the prerogative of mercy. And again, on a sad note, Nigerian recording and performing high-life music legend Victor Waifo has died. The multi-instrumentalist, known for his exceptional dexterity on the guitar, birthing him the alias Guitar Boy, which is also the title for one of his popular projects, died at the age of 80 after a brief illness.
Never you run away. Never run away. If you see mommy water, if you see mommy water, never you run away. Sing your song of love, sweet melody. You see mommy water, never run away. Happened 40 years ago at the Babish. Please.
celebrated an iconic personality. And that's the news at 10. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikelu. Good night.